Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
It's Russell Brown at publicaddress.net, the Hard News blog, and also the Media 7 show, TVNZ7. Morning, Russell.
Good morning.
Back with your first post of 2011 as well. First kind of newsy post, I suppose.
Yeah, first newsy one. Oh, no, actually, no. I think I just threw a couple of things open for public discussion earlier on.
Sort of holiday type posts.
Holiday type
yeah.
posts, yes.
This first one about swimming pools. It's been put forward, the idea that they should extend the free swimming pools that they've had out in South Auckland around the rest of the super city.
Yeah, and this is actually something that Len Brown did campaign on. And he said that, as part of his 100 projects in 100 days, this would be one of those things that he would do. I think he's been quite sensible about it. All he wants to do at the moment is commission a report on the feasibility and the potential benefits of removing the access charges from all the swimming pools in Auckland.
Yeah.
So like the ones in Manukau City are. And it's an interesting one, because as I pointed out in the post, I'm lucky enough to live in Point Chevalier, and that means that I've got one of those beaches that my fellow ratepayers chipped in and re-sanded.
And what a lovely beach it is too.
It's fantastic. It really has transformed it, and it's used by hundreds of people every sunny day, and it works really well. But none of us pay an entry fee there, although it has cost the ratepayer money. There's no cost recovery.
Yeah.
And it is quite an interesting point to ponder, well, where then is the justification for charging people who don't happen to live quite so close to lovely beaches? Because there are obvious benefits to having people active, and swimming is a particularly good form of exercise. It was interesting that Andrew Dubber, who was over last week, the digital music guy of New Zealander who's working at the Birmingham City University, said he was quite astonished that the not very progressive Birmingham City Council actually has just done this. They've thrown open their swimming pools because they did the math and figured that actually when they added it up, there was greater benefit in having a more active population. So
would the benefit be twofold? You've got an active population, hopefully not getting fat, and also a population that doesn't drown when they end up in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, last year was our best year on record for drownings, only 86. But 86 is still quite a lot, and it's disproportionately children. And as I said in the blog, it was interesting going out to Hanua Falls just after Christmas, which is a lovely place to swim, but a funny, treacherous little pool. And seeing a big, strong guy have to be brought in, and clearly he'd never learned to swim.
Yeah.
And there are signs everywhere there, and I mean it's been a real problem for schools because the whole model of school funding has changed. There's much greater demands on resources, and when I went to particularly primary school, every school had a pool.
Yeah.
And they could kind of afford to run them.
Of course, not every pool is created equal either.
No, that's true. Yeah, some schools have very nice pools that kids can swim lengths of, and are well maintained because they've got the money, and some don't. But yeah, it would be interesting, and in some cases, you have to say places like Point Erin, they're almost there anyway. Exactly how much the marginal cost of not bothering with entry fees altogether would be is that's the kind of thing you would hope would come out in the report, because if you take a kid to Point Erin as a non-swimming adult, you don't pay to get in.
Yeah.
Kids under 5 are free, so they're kind of halfway there, and it just might make things easier because there are families in Auckland who cannot pay $10 a day to take everyone to the pool. Their budgets just don't allow for that, and you think, well, what do they do?
Yeah, no.
Stupid editorial in the Herald about this saying, public baths are for places with cold climates and windswept coasts. What, like Sydney? I mean, it was a ridiculous editorial, but even that expressed the view that perhaps selectively in areas where there was need, baths could be made free of charge. Penny Hulse, the Deputy Mayor, has indicated they're willing to compromise. I mean, it's one thing I quite like about Len Brown's style so far, is he's not a tub thumper. They appear to be looking for solutions. So, and basically, I think commissioning this report is the right thing to do.
Okay. This is a surprise to me. Obama on a roll, say the new polls.
Yeah. More so since his speech in Tucson, but it's actually been closing up for him, I think, for about the last 2 months. I pretty much daily use a site called Talking Points Memo, and they have a rolling poll average, and he's gone into positive now, but it's been tightening up for a while. And the funny thing is, it really started to turn when the Republicans had that big victory in the midterm elections, which was supposedly, going to be the beginning of the end for Obama.
Is that just because it freaked a whole lot of Democrats out?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Also, because now that they had nothing to lose, some of his the Democratic representatives in Congress actually got their acts together, and they passed an enormous amount of law as a lame duck Congress, and it was things like "Don't ask, don't tell." So, it is. Yeah, it's funny. They show exactly what the Democrats could achieve if they weren't so terminally afraid of their own shadows, basically.
And perhaps Sarah Palin's blood libel comment is also...
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another poll out which happens to be very favourable for Obama as well, so maybe it's slightly skewed, but the Washington Post ABC poll, Americans view the Tea Party less favourably than Russia or socialism. Only 35% of Americans like the teabaggers. And,
that's still pretty high.
Palin's approval ratings overall are really starting to tank.
Yeah.
She quite clearly handled the whole Arizona shooting thing so appallingly, just making herself the victim, unrepentantly making herself the victim, which is actually a really common hallmark of those fringe so-called conservatives. I don't really think they're real conservatives anyway, but the wingnuts are obsessed with their own victim status, and Sarah Palin kind of embodies that for them. It's not very attractive to anyone else, though.
No. Big day out this Friday, and warnings of a new party drug on the scene, right?
Yeah, 2CP, which is one of a family of drugs called phenethylamines, which have, it seems sort of one by one leaked out into recreational use. This one, from what I can tell on the internet, is one of the more potent of them. There may well be people out there amongst your listeners who've tried it. These drugs tend to strike me as not really party drugs, quite hallucinatory, and in particular with 2CP, 16 to 18 hours. So just be careful, kids. And there's a very high dose-response curve, so taking a little too much can actually be really bad. Is
there an issue with this this drug being, people think they're getting something else, but they're getting 2CP? Yeah,
exactly. Because with 2CB, 2CI, probably and hopefully people have some idea of what it is. They may get sold it as LSD or something like that. But yeah, it does seem that if it doesn't seem like it's working, give it 2 hours, because it can take that long to come on, according to what I'm reading at Erowid, and resist the urge to redose.
And there seems to be a rather sensible article in the Herald about this this morning as well.
Yeah, and good on St John's, actually.
Yeah,
for making it clear that, look, we're not panicking about this. We're not going to be down on you for this. We're not judging what you choose to get involved with. But if you have a problem, come and see us. And
the other problem, not talked about in this article, but it has been in the media recently, mephedrone.
Mephedrone is nasty. And mephedrone's a really interesting story because it's something that we've seen again and again in illicit drug regulation, is if you force out one drug, you run a very serious risk of having a worse one pour in and take its place. And that's what's happened with ecstasy. Real MDMA is pretty rare out there, I gather. And this is the same thing that's happened in the UK, is that methadone, which is cheaper, nastier, and easier to manufacture, has become the predominant drug. And I've seen people mention it on Twitter a few times recently as well. It seems maybe fairly popular in Auckland at the moment, but high blood pressure.
Popular by demand, or popular because
because that's all there is.
Right.
Yeah. If there was a legal alternative or even genuine MDMA out there, I'm quite sure that people would choose that. But I mean, it doesn't really often seem to actually kill people, methadone. It's just nasty.
Yeah.
So,
Russell Brown, I will see you methadroneless at the big day out.
Methadroneless, yeah, no, I don't want any of that methadone shit. Well, weather forecast, it'll be all right.
Yeah, so, but...
Yeah, a bit showery.
It should be warm anyway.
Yeah, it'll be very warm. The low for the night is 21.
I look forward to seeing you there.
Sweetie in the big pot.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya.
That is Russell Brown at publicaddress.net, also the Media 7 Show TVNZ.